All right, so I even made notes, and for me, making notes is really a process of waking up at 4 a.m. and mashing something onto a keyboard that says grant money is a privilege, not a right, and then passing back out and then saying, hey, I'm probably going to do a talk about that, and then that's about it. And this is actually a kind of the same type of thing that I talk about every time I got up. Last time I was really confrontational and exhausted, and so I was just like, you guys need to share more. And that's kind of where it ended up. He had to come and save me, and it was terrible. So, and so I come from an academic background where we're actually really, really cagey about sharing stuff. And this is a big problem, and I know that especially in biology, this is becoming an issue. Like, we really need to work more together. Biotech generally seems to be fairly underrepresented here. So maybe you guys aren't getting the same type of thing that I'm talking about, but maybe it is something that you should be talking about. Maybe that's a conversation that needs to be had. And one of the reasons that you guys should really start thinking about this whole like biology type of thing is because we are all basically biology, or kind of giant saline meat bags with high density chalk kind of holding it up, and this is just kind of how it is. You can't really get away from this. I'm sure many of you have heard the term software is eating the world, and you're not being consumed by software. Software is eating all the different ways that we deal with money, but it's not really doing a whole lot to the biology thing, and most of the world is actually biology or rocks. And so, that's something that we really need to start thinking about, because basic research, the only research that's really getting funded outside of the university is product-driven. It's applied research, which is cool if you want to make some money, but it's really, really bad for development of technology. Somebody was just talking about life extension, and Liz is going to be here later talking about life extension. And whenever you read something in the news and it says, hey, scientists have figured out some sort of clever life extension thing, and then you follow it back to the sources and you learned how to read a scientific paper at some point maybe, and then it's like, no, really, the scientists discovered the Z pathway in mice is moderated by the ABC enzyme, and now this mouse has hair. I'm like, that's it. That's actually the research that happened. But we get really, really excited, and we think that there's a product there, and then you talk to the people that are working on it, and they're like, no, there's no product here. There's just the research. There's just the stuff that we have to do, and maybe 10 years down the road, we'll figure out enough of the pieces together that you can take something that you can rub on your face, and maybe you're not so wrinkly. But in terms of like that whole, we're going to give you some money, and I expect to see something in about 6 months, this just isn't happening because the work isn't getting done, and the work isn't getting done because we're not applying money to it in those ways. And so we have to figure out other ways to do it, which always comes back to the thing that I'm always talking about, which is open access to tools and open access to information. Notes, I'm terrible at it. And this is it's really interesting because how many people are coders here or know how to code? How many people didn't? How did you guys learn this? Did you do this from going to school? And yeah, exactly. So that whole open access to information and tools thing is really, really important. It like speaks to your core demographic here. But then you get into places where you're talking about biomedical or biology research in general, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait a second. That's biology. That's not my jam. Like, this stuff needs to be done by a doctor. And David, where is he? I wanted to pick on him in person. There he is. He wants me to do like a workshop. So I do a lot of open biology type of stuff. I do a lot of, hey, here's some intro to microbiology. Here's some, little DIY home surgery among consenting adults. And it takes this understanding that there's a certain amount of trust that the narrative that you've been sold for biology works just like the narrative that people tried to sell you about code, which is that you had to do it a certain way, and that it had to go through this channel, and it had to go through that channel, and most of you guys figured out that that wasn't really how it worked. You know, this is also something that's happening in biology, and it's really, really important. So when, you know, it kind of ends up when I'm doing this talk where I don't really have a product to sell. I don't really have any particular wonderful plan. There's a lot of different plans that I'm working on, but there's no red hot one that I want you guys to get really, really excited about, except to think about your projects and the things that you're doing. And most of the ways that you guys got to where you are is because somebody shared what they had and they made it accessible to you. And so when you're developing your projects, it's very, very important that you make it accessible to other people so that we can continue to innovate and build on these things.